Welcome back to Winging It Buffalo Style. It is time for our hot sauce, and today we're sitting on the couch with our legal expert, attorney Joshua Ramos, who's here to answer your legal questions. So we're going to get right into this because we have a lot to cover. We're going to start on a little bit of a serious note. Viewers write in. We have you answer these questions. One of our viewers wants to know if he gets pulled over for, he or she, we don't know who it is, if they get pulled over for drunk driving, should they refuse to take the breathalyzer test?
You know, that is one of the most common questions I have, but I usually get them after the fact that say whether or not they should have taken the breath test. And my first advice to everybody is don't put yourself in that situation. The cost of one of these DWIs ends up being dramatic versus a $30 cab ride. The second piece of advice is if you ever get in that situation, you should always call an attorney on the spot. You're allowed an opportunity to call the attorney, and quite frankly, they'll give you advice, because whether you take the test, whether you don't take the test, either way, there's ramifications to both of those situations, and the attorney is going to know what's best with respect to your job, your employment, with respect to your driving in the future. So it's a tricky question, and it all depends on your situation individually. And again, the best advice is don't put yourself in that situation to begin with.
Not only is it an expensive little procedure, but it also can you risk harming yourself or the life of another one. So
exactly.
I like the advice of just don't let it happen. It's such an easy thing to fix. Maybe next time you're in that situation, call that cab, call a friend. I know everyone's out there.
Get a ride.
Yes, exactly. So now the next one is, again, car related. So someone wrote in, they said they just bought a car at their dealership. The engine stopped working. Do they have a chance, do they have to give them a chance to fix the engine, or do they just sort of demand for a new car? How does this work?
Well, you can make the demand for a new car, but in New York, we got something called what's the lemon law, as in you sold me a lemon, give me a new car, or give me my money back. So in this situation, generally the law provides that a dealership has 3 chances to fix this car problem. And these chances, with respect to them, are supposed to be reasonable chances. So if they have 1 chance and they have the car for over 30 or 40 days, that's an unreasonable chance. So at that point, I think you're entitled to get your car back. And these dealerships, they have a great arbitration system set up to avoid costly and timely litigation. And these arbitrators generally rule in the buyer's favor. So again, it's contact a local attorney, advise them what's going on, and they'll send it right up for arbitration to get your car back and or your money back right away.
Now, does this matter if it's a new or used car, or is this just sort of any car that you purchase?
No, it's as long as it's from a registered dealership. It could be a new car or a used car. It has to be a good car, and either way, it has to work, it has to perform, it has to meet certain expectations. So if it's a new or used, the same law applies. So either way, they have an opportunity to fix, and if they fail on their first opportunity and they have the car for way too long, then you should be entitled to get your money back.
All right, now we're moving from one major life purchase, a car, to another major life purchase that is a home. So someone wrote in asking, they just recently purchased a home. It's after everything's closed. They've moved in. They're finding some new additional things wrong with the home. Is this something they could go after the previous buyers for, to sort of have them pony up and fix what they're experiencing wrong with the house?
Well, hopefully when they purchased, they used a realtor, because the realtors generally use these Buffalo Niagara Association of Realtors, these contracts that these create, and they have all these protections in there for buyers, for sellers, in a situation, and it happens quite often, where they buy a home and they discover that there's structural problems that were hidden or masked, and at that point, you do have the option to go after the sellers. And again, it's something you want to make a decision very carefully, because in the event that you lose, you might have to pay their legal fees. But there's a great option to go to small claims court, because most problems are under $5,000, and you could go and say, Judge, here's the contract, here's what they disclosed, it wasn't there, and here's why they should have disclosed it, because anyone would have seen it. And at that point, you should be entitled to get your money back.
Now, I know people can be picky about their purchases. Now, are these small or larger things? Are we talking new roofs, or are we just sort of talking chip paint?
Well, usually the problem is like hidden structural issues, or like it could be a leaky roof or a leaky tub that they just weren't using for the last 6 months because they wanted to keep the wall dry. So sometimes they're small, but then you have other situations where it's the cracked foundation or the house is sinking, and those are larger, and that definitely is going to take the time and expense of using more litigation, and you actually seek your attorney. And again, if you're successful in these efforts and you use the realtor, you get your legal fees paid by the seller of the home.
Now, we're also talking about leasing. People have questions on that. So the situation arose that their landlord is threatening to kick them out. He's changed the lock again. He or she has changed the lock. The person that is leasing can't find a new place to live. They're not going to be able to find a new place within that month time frame they gave them. Can they fight this, or is it just sort of you're going to have to cut your losses.
Yeah. Well, a lot of time, the landlords and tenants, they both don't know what the law is. And unfortunately for the landlords, they can't just come in and change your locks. And the police know this because there's a whole eviction process that's set up that the police are generally involved with. So if a landlord comes in and tries to physically remove you without an eviction, your best bet is to call the police, have them there, and they'll say, look, you can't move them out and you have to go to court. In the event that they do this without, for instance, if you're not home and they end up changing the locks, then you're going to be entitled to all kinds of damages because the law affords great protections to the house and home, even if you're a tenant, and landlords cannot violate your rights there.
And of course, with all of these questions, there's so many more subtleties that we don't have time to talk about. So for people that have questions out there for Joshua, how can they get a hold of you?
Again, you can go visit the website at ramosandramos.com, or you could call us at 810-6140. And I guess they could.
Yeah, and if your questions aren't pressing, if you don't need to contact them right away, send them to our Facebook. Tweet them at us, email them, get them to us, and we'll, of course, ask them to you on the couch. Thank you so much for joining us. Right now, we're going to head over to our web producer, Emily Lenahan.